So you spent an entire week in Tartarus. Yep. What did you even do? Apparently it was a mistake, and of course everyone ignored my appeal to the sentence until I complained about it on Reddit. Really? Reddit? Yep, apparently that's where you have to go when you need actual support. Huh, weird. School Raze. Got where to begin. Admittedly, I think it worked overall much better than Shadowplay, as this episode was at least decently paced and didn't try to force a season's worth of content into 40 minutes. But it's so stupid! I guess I might as well start with Cozy Glow. Back when Cozy Glow was introduced in Mark for Efforts, a lot of people immediately jumped to the conclusion that she must be evil because she resembles Baby Doll from Batman. Well, and she confused the element of magic with control. I wonder how many people actually came to that conclusion on their own, as the synopsis for School Raze, which mentions that Cozy Glow is behind everything, was leaked months before Marks for Effort was even aired. But you don't have to read leaked synopsis or be particularly smart to see that something is off about Cozy Glow. My Little Pony is all about cuteness, but Cozy just seems to push it. And the elements of control thing wasn't exactly subtle. Even less so, as Tirek remarked in that episode that Cozy's scheme was pretty devious. And as I pointed out, her cutie mark is a chess figure. And as we all know from TV tropes, a manipulative person is called a chess master. Not to mention that the mere fact that she appeared in multiple episodes afterwards was a dead giveaway that she will play an important role in the season finale. Otherwise she would have been only a background character at best in later appearances. And regarding those, Friendship University implied in the last scene that she gave Flim and Flem a copy of Twilight's book so they can open their own school of friendship, which doesn't make any sense whatsoever, as she has nothing to gain from that, and they don't bother to bring it up in this episode either. Then in What Lies Beneath, she triggers a young Six with some offensive comments, and everyone was immediately convinced that she has to be working with Naysay. Well, yeah, the show sort of made it look that way to a point where I'm not sure if that was the original intention of the writers or a red herring. I could imagine that they changed it halfway through production. Now, instead of Naysay, she worked with Tirek. And here's one question. How the actual hell did Cozy contact Tirek? Like really, Tirek is locked up in Tartarus. The episodes makes it rather clear that they never met each other in person, as Tirek only calls her his pen pal. But I have a hard time believing that Tirek would actually get letters there. There was no way that Tirek could communicate with anyone outside of Tartarus. The only possible explanation would have been magic. But Cozy is a Pegasus and therefore cannot do magic, and they offered no explanation like a magic mirror or something like that. So yeah, for this plot to actually make sense, Cozy should have been a unicorn, but she is no unicorn, and frankly, I can only think of one reason why. It has been done to death. We already had Sunset Shimmer, Starlight Glimmer, Fizzlepop Berry Twist, and depending how you look at them, Sombra and Stygian. Every pony villain we had so far has been a unicorn, not counting Luna, who is an alicorn, but still close enough. Cozy being a Pegasus serves no other purpose than to do something different for once, and the same thing applies to her plan in general. She didn't steal all the magic in Equestria to turn herself into an alicorn god, that would have made sense. Instead, she wanted to get rid of all the magic to conquer it with friendship. The only reason I can think of why Cozy didn't try to use all that magic for herself is because they already did that. Twice. Once in the movie and in Twilight's Kingdom. But even if it's not Cozy's goal to use all the magic she steals, it still feels like a rehash all the same. The someone is stealing all our magic shtick is getting old. It feels like the showrunners wrote themselves into a corner and don't know how to raise the stakes in a different way. I should do a video on that topic at some point. Now there are several problems with Cozy's plan. It actually starts off rather promising. She sucks all the magic out of Equestria and tricks the main six to look after Tirek, knowing well that they will be trapped there for all eternity once all the magic is gone. The setup is actually pretty great and would make a lot of sense if she was going to absorb all the magic for herself, but instead her plan relies on Tirek naming her temporary headmaster so she can use her position to befriend everyone and become the Empress of Friendship. I don't have to explain why nothing about this makes any sense, but I'm gonna do it anyway. I don't know if she actually thinks that she can channel friendship as some sort of weapon, but even if she manages to befriend all the students of Twilight School, they won't follow her without question, and they are hardly enough for an army. And it doesn't really help to get her into politics either, so using it as a basis to become a dictator doesn't really work. I know the idea is that Cozy simply doesn't understand friendship and therefore equates it with power, but come on, we are supposed to believe that she is such an intelligent manipulator, and I think the explanation "she's just crazy" is not sufficient here. The thing with Cozy's plan is that it is self-destructive. It has no chance of actually succeeding. Let's pretend for a minute that she were to succeed and all the magic is gone from Equestria, while Twilight is nowhere to be found. It is more likely that they will close down the school, or that Celestia finds someone else to run it, because Cozy isn't exactly the most qualified. Though more likely is that no one will care because they have different problems. Equestria is literally unsustainable without magic. Something this episode seemingly forgot, as they portray magic as more of a luxury than anything else. The main six are portrayed as being too reliant on magic because they can't use it to keep flies away, or to prevent their food from going bad. I just want to mention that this cupcake has to be already a couple of days old, because there's no way that it went bad in just a couple of hours. Or Cozy put a rotten cupcake in their bags just to mess with them. I think the latter is the most likely. The gravity of the situation is completely ignored. Pegasi should lose their ability to walk on clouds and fly, as this previously has been attributed to magic. The crystal art would stop to function, meaning everyone in the Crystal Empire would freeze to death, and perhaps more importantly, no one would be capable of moving the sun. A detail this episode completely ignores. Well, that's not exactly true. Luna says that moving the moon became more difficult, which actually makes it worse, as the episode itself draws attention to the fact that Celestia and Luna should lose the ability to move the sun and the moon. But we still see a day-night transition after the first day, even though both Celestia and Luna should have lost their magic at this point. Heck, the sunset on the third day is even a plot point. I understand that they use the sunset for dramatic effect to show that time was running out, but it makes no sense. The very first thing the show does in the first episode is to explain that Celestia and Luna use magic to raise the sun and the moon respectively. Excuse me if I think that it is a problem that the writers can't get that one detail right. Is anyone proofreading this stuff? So yeah, if Cozy Glow were to succeed, there would be an eternal night or day, or maybe eternal twilight if they are lucky. So not only would Cozy most likely be unable to actually gain the power she wants, she would also doom all of Equestria, so there wouldn't be anything to rule over anyway. And then there's that problem. Why is Cozy Glow a child? I mean, yeah, I can see the appeal of the innocent looking young girl that is actually rotten to the core. It's a fun archetype, and hey, I have to give Cozy that much. She's one of the most entertaining villains we had in a while. She's just the right amount of crazy, and the animators had a lot of fun with her face. But while she is fun, making her a child doesn't make any sense. Cozy Glow's plan revolved around Twilight naming her Headmare. The mere idea of Twilight naming a literal child her substitute is just ridiculous. Even more so that anyone would let her keep the title when it becomes obvious that Twilight won't return. Now admittedly, I can suspend my disbelief in that regard. I think it makes things unnecessarily convoluted, but I can roll with it. Now, if you are part of the Brownie community, you are probably aware that the fandom gets kinda sick of every villain getting a last minute redemption, more often than not without any proper build up. So of course, an irredeemable villain is in theory a nice change of pace. The problem I have with this is, why does it have to be a child? Last season, MLP wanted us to see the good in the Pony of Shadows, which was presented as a destructive force that wants to spread darkness all over Equestria. From what everyone knew, it's an unstoppable force of pure evil that must be locked away in a different dimension. But of course, Starlight questioned if that monster is truly that evil and uncovers what is supposed to be a tragic background story. So, an eldritch abomination like the Pony of Shadows can be reformed, but a literal child? Well, lock her up in hell. Getting mixed messages here. No, I'm perfectly fine that we didn't get another sub-story for her, but why did she have to be a child? She still has her whole life ahead of her and could learn for crying out loud. But nope, this preteen is obviously a lost cause. And why lock up a child in Tartarus alongside Tirek? Tartarus is meant to be a prison for the most dangerous villains and monsters that are far too dangerous to be kept anywhere else. But when it comes down to it, Cozy Glow is just a child. Not even a unicorn, but a Pegasus. Any normal room can hold her. If you don't give her any magical items, she is as harmless as it gets. Heck, in this situation I think it would have been more fitting if Twilight simply gave her detention and extra homework. I don't mind an unredeemable bad guy. It's what makes Tirek so appealing after all. But telling us that a child is that bad just feels wrong, and there was no narrative reason to make this character a child either, other than to make the reveal that she is actually evil more shocking. Subverting expectation doesn't automatically equal good writing. Also, apparently she is an orphan, so if you want your sub-story to explain why she turned out the way she did, there you go. Really, I don't know if that makes it better or worse. That being said, Tartarus seems a little bit overrated anyway. It is supposed to be this dungeon in which they keep the greatest villains and the most dangerous monsters in all of Equestria. Now we finally get to see more of it than just Tirek's cell. And what do we get? A bunch of random beasts we have seen throughout the show. I guess now we know why the Everfree Forest doesn't seem that threatening anymore. Apparently they locked up every wild beast that lived there. And the real kicker, we are supposed to feel sorry for them. Like, really. I don't really see why these creatures have to be locked up in Tartarus. They are dangerous, yes, but nothing really outstanding. I mean, there's a Manticore among them, and we saw Fluttershy tame one in the very first episode, well, okay, episode 2, and they are seemingly easy enough to handle that Trixie got one for a stage show. Sure, they are a bit more dangerous than your average bear, but frankly, it seems more like animal abuse to me. They could have maybe teased a few different villains in the background or something, but nope, random beasts. Frankly, it makes ponies look bad for running a place like that. Does the Equestria version of Peter know about this? It certainly doesn't help either that Fluttershy has no problem convincing these creatures to help the main six. It feels unnecessarily cruel that they are kept in the same place as Tirek. I'm also not quite sure what to think of the fact that you can suck the magic out of these creatures and split them into the animals that makes them up. It doesn't really bother me. I just think it's weird. Now, while I complained a lot, I have to say I enjoyed seeing Tirek again. It was a bit disappointing that he wasn't the main villain this time around and only was responsible for giving Cozy the necessary knowledge, but admittedly it was a rather creative use of his character, not to mention that I appreciate his Hannibal impersonation. However, I don't like that he was hit by the idiot stick as well, or rather that it was portrayed like he didn't think things through. I am of the opinion that it would have been more fitting if he was so spiteful that locking the main six up in Tartarus would have been enough for him, but instead he regrets that he didn't think of it and even ended up helping them escape. Tirek is supposedly the most evil character in the show, so I think a petty revenge taunting them that they are stuck with him forever would have worked much better. Personally, I think that the admission that he made a mistake cheapens his character. However, Pinkie Pie torturing him into submission was admittedly rather funny. Now, if there's one thing I really have to praise this episode for, it's the way it handled so many characters at the same time. The only ones that came rather short were the Cutima Crusaders, to a point where I wonder why they were even included. The way Cozy fooled them was rather stupid. But besides that, the writers managed to find a good way to remove the main six, Starlight and the princesses from the story. When you compare to Where and Back Again, where they were kidnapped off-screen under rather questionable circumstances, it actually made a lot of sense here. Cozy tricks the main six to leave in a believable way, giving the young six the opportunity to shine. The only complaint I have is that the members of the young six could have used a little bit more individual time to make up for the lack of screen time throughout the season, but overall I don't think that we really needed to see more of them in this episode. Of course it was to be expected that they will save the day this time around. In the same vein, I immediately assumed that the 6 artifacts that were introduced in a matter of principles will play an important role in the season finale. As it turned out, I was wrong and right in that regard. I assumed that the Young Six will use them as their version of the Elements of Harmony, but instead it was Cozy Glow who used them to create that magical vortex. At the same time, however, we ended up relying on the Deus Ex Machina again. Really, the Young Six were about to get sucked into the vortex, while Cozy explains that the Tree of Harmony probably won't be of any use in the future, only for the tree to power up the Young Six so they can save the day. I know we established that the tree has a mind of its own in the Mean Six and what lies beneath, but it still came completely out of left field and felt like a rather cheap conclusion. The only positive thing I can take from that is that the tree seemingly only intervened because the Young Six more or less proved themselves worthy to use the power of the elements. I still consider it a Deus Ex Machina though, because for all intents and purposes there was no rebuild up to this conclusion. And then there's Naysay. As if looking up a child in Tartarus wasn't bad enough, we still get a forced redemption because of course the racist bigot sees the errors in his way when the Young Six free him. And what does he do? Go to get Celestia for help, which in the end amounted to nothing. They made such a big deal that they have to free him so they can stop Cozy, and in the end he didn't contribute anything. Besides that, this episode portrayed him as even more idiotic than before. Twilight is gone and he thinks he can just take control of the school. What gives him the authority? This school isn't run by the EEA, so he has no power over it. It is actually rather satisfying to see how Cozy puts him in his place by pointing out in front of everyone that he can't just assume control and that Celestia sanctions the school herself. But even before that, his stupidity has no bounds in this episode. He thinks that the Young Six are responsible for the disappearance of magic throughout Equestria and catch up the Young Six accordingly. What does he intend to do with them? Calling their parents to take them home. This doesn't make any sense by his own logic. If he truly thinks the Young Six are responsible, then he intends to tell the enemy that the spies succeeded and that Equestria is pretty much defenseless at the moment, opening up the gates for an invasion. If he really cares about the safety of Equestria and thinks they are responsible, this is pretty much the stupidest thing he could do. Oh, and one last thing. I'm usually the first to point out that the absence of Discord is not automatically a plot hole. Discord is not omniscient, so he doesn't always know what is going on, so it's understandable that he doesn't automatically show up when there is trouble. Not to mention that he probably doesn't care most of the time, as any given threat to Equestria doesn't concern him personally. At best he looks after Fluttershy. But considering that he was also affected by the magic draining stone into where and back again, he would most likely be affected by Cozy's ritual as well. So he has every reason to intervene. And they established back in Twilight's kingdom that he can detect magical disturbances. He immediately felt it when Celestia, Luna and Cadence transferred the magic to Twilight, even though he wasn't actively looking. I am certain he would notice a vortex that drains all the magic from Equestria immediately, and since he would only be affected by the end of the second day, he would probably take care of it right away. So yeah, in this case, him not showing up and fixing everything is a plot hole. Well, and with that being said, let's wrap things up. I might have said a lot of negative things, but in the end I think School Race is a fun season finale, and I think actually one of the best paced ones to boot. It actually handled a multitude of characters with ease, good comedy, the stakes were reasonably high, and some ideas were pretty clever. In theory, I could actually consider it the best executed season finale the show got so far, if it weren't for some downright stupid story decisions. Naysay is a moron who doesn't know what he is doing, the plan of Cozy makes no sense, and is self-destructive, and locking up a child in Tartarus seems downright cruel. You could fix most problems of this episode by turning Cozy into an adult unicorn who wants to use a stolen magic to rule Equestria by force and lead the line that Naysay will call the Guardians of the Young Six, and you have a perfectly fine two-parter. The whole episode seems like a first draft that no one bothered to proofread. It's pretty good, but full of smaller mistakes and plot holes that add up and drag it down. There shouldn't be a sunset when all the alicorns lost their magic. It's a basic rule of this world. That's something you might not think about when writing your first draft. But you have to fix such obvious plot holes when you start producing an episode. But what about you? Did you like this episode? Anything that bothered you? What are your thoughts on Cozy Glow being locked up in Tartarus? Let me know in the comments. I am Tricky Fox. Stay foxy.
Sly as a fox, you got me under your spell. But you know I'll never tell that I know you know so well.